Hello and welcome to this edition of World at War. My name is Mohammed Saleh. The negotiations between the United States and Iran for a peace deal appear to be a sideshow. The real muscle-flexing contest is actually playing out on the battlefield. Missile strikes are being used as leverage to dictate terms in the negotiations. Iranian missiles and drones targeted 2 American air bases in Kuwait and the headquarters of the US Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. The Iranians claim that they were responding to an American strike on a telecommunication mast on the Qeshm island and another telecommunication tower on the Syriac island. The truce between Iran and the United States exists only in name. Iran now sees itself as the overlord of the Strait of Hormuz, whose control it has managed to wrest in this war started by the Americans and the Israelis. Tel Aviv at this moment appears more focused on carrying out attacks in Lebanon and the Gaza Strip, while it is the United States that is trying to guard its military bases in the GCC and is trying to negotiate a deal in which it does not want to allow Iran to appear to emerge as a winner, being in control of the Strait of Hormuz. Our next report tells you more. This is what a ceasefire looks like. These images, released by the US CENTCOM, show the Americans carrying out precision-guided missile strikes on Iran's Qeshm and Syriac islands. The US claims it struck Iran's surveillance radar sites, but Iran insists that these were communication towers with which it was carrying out coordination with commercial shipping vessels as they traversed through the Strait of Hormuz that is now firmly under Iranian control. The Iranian military response came in less than 90 minutes. It launched a barrage of missiles and drones aimed at what Iran insisted are American air bases in Kuwait and what is left of the headquarters of the American Navy's Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. The US military said that it intercepted 7 missiles fired by Iran at Kuwait and Bahrain. Earlier, the US said that its forces had shot down 4 Iranian drones launched towards the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranians sense the advantage they claim to have in this missile contest in the narrow Strait of Hormuz and have shown little inclination in backing down from their demands.
As I have said many times, those engaged in diplomacy do not believe the enemy's words or promises. Our standard is the concrete results we must achieve in order to fulfill our commitments in return, and we will not approve any agreement until we are certain that the rights of the Iranian people have been upheld.
Donald Trump, who started this term by giving himself the moniker the President of Peace, has repeatedly said that the negotiations are going well and that the Iran war will come to an end very soon. For the average American who's more interested in filling up his car and putting food on the table, the Iran war has meant a sharp increase in the price of fuel and food inflation. And the longer the Iran war drags on, the more it would pinch the purse of an average American voter.
One way or the other is finished. It's either finished with a piece of paper or finished a more difficult way, although you could say a much easier way. As you know, with Iran, they have no navy. 159 ships in 4 days. Even Ken is impressed by that. 4 days, 159 ships at the bottom of the sea. Not that we like that, but that's the way it is. And the blockade is unbelievable. There's never been a blockade like that. The Navy is... We have the greatest military anywhere in the world. There's never been a military like it.
Donald Trump is learning an old maxim the hard way. You can start a war, but will never be able to predict its consequences. In fact, if one were to go by the reports in the Western media, Benjamin Netanyahu, who apparently led Donald Trump into this war, is lobbying with Trump not to end it. There was apparently unprecedented coordination between the two leaders when they started this war, and now Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu are clashing over how to end this war. Trump's strategy appears to be to bide for time by imposing a counter-blockade on any ship that wants to reach Iranian ports. Trump wants to starve Iran of its resources. While the negotiations continue, both Iran and the United States believe they have time on their side. And if only they could last out longer than their adversary, they'd emerge victorious in the Iran war. The Russia-Ukraine war isn't coming to an end anytime soon, but the tone and tenor of what is playing out on the battlefield has changed. Ukraine isn't losing territory anymore. In fact, it is slowly clawing back territory that the Russians had earlier captured. The Ukrainian drones have taken the war into the heart of Russian critical infrastructure. 30% of Russia's oil refining capacity has been destroyed, and now Volodymyr Zelensky has written an open letter to Vladimir Putin stating that there should be face-to-face meeting between the two of them. But the Kremlin has again rejected this demand. Now, Kremlin's assertion is that there must be first a deal before a meeting can happen. Russia has responded to Ukrainian drone strikes by bludgeoning Kiev and other Ukrainian cities with missiles and drones, and even unleashing an Oreshnik missile, just for the third time so far in this war. The Russians have also threatened with the possibility of nuclear weapons if Russia's territory were to come under threat. So which way is the Ukraine war headed? Our next report explores. This video, released by the Ukrainian forces, shows the moment a drone slammed into the city of St. Petersburg at a time when Russia was preparing to host its version of Davos. What was struck was an oil terminal and the Russian naval base of St. Petersburg. As the plumes of dark smoke rose over the skyline of this historic city, what was clear is that the Ukrainians could strike at even some of the most closely guarded skylines across Russia. What was struck was not just Russian military infrastructure, but actually Russian prestige and the claim of Russian dominance in this war. Russia has said that this drone attack will not go unanswered. In another attack, a drone slammed into a moving bus, killing at least 11 people in the Russian-controlled part of the Donetsk region. "53 people had been registered to travel on the bus." Russian investigators have said that they've opened a criminal case into what they've described as a terrorist attack and are working to establish the names of those who are responsible. Sensing his opportunity, Volodymyr Zelensky now wants to negotiate on an equal footing with the Russians.
Thank God, thanks to our armed forces, our strength is being felt on the battlefield today. We have made significant progress in deep strikes. Today, we've reached a target 1,400 kilometers away. And this isn't an isolated incident. It's a specific target and a concrete result. And I think, thank God, that today we have such security guarantees that allow us to end this war on equal footing with the Russians in any diplomatic format.
In fact, Volodymyr Zelensky has even written an open letter to the Russian president, asking for face-to-face talks to bring an end to this war. But the Russian president has dismissed any possibility of a meeting.
I said, I don't see the point in meeting with Zelensky. There's only point for the Ukrainian side to stop the advance of our armed forces. That's all. But we need agreements. Not for 6 months, not for 3 months, but for the long term. Let the experts work, develop some solutions, and then we can meet, witness the signing of some documents, or even sign something. But first, we need to find a solution. And now the most important thing, and the audience will understand, especially the Russian one. This happened, I think, on May 21st, and on May 22nd, Ukrainian troops carried out a terrible terrorist attack on a college dormitory in the Luhansk People's Republic, where children, teenagers were killed.
The Ukraine war is expanding, and it is Romania that appears to be in the crosshairs. After a drone strike on a residential apartment in Galati last week, a naval drone now self-detonated in Romania's Black Sea port of Constanta near an oil terminal without causing any casualties. 3 more maritime drones were found on the Romanian coast after an explosion in Constanta. Romania, which is a NATO and a European Union member, shares a 650-kilometer-long border with Ukraine and has reported 28 incursions into its airspace by the Russian drones since Moscow began attacking the Ukrainian ports on the Danube.
Yes, I have received all the briefings and a few more with a certain degree of certainty, but I don't want to make them public. Probably this afternoon, when we meet, we will have the complete information. What is important is that there was intelligence that this drone was going to explode and, therefore, that all persons managed to get clear.
Russia striking Ukraine for a 3rd time with an Oreshnik missile is a statement of intent. The Ukrainians have managed to bring this war on a more even keel, making Russia feel the pain of strikes on its critical infrastructure. And Europe now stands on the cusp of a conflagration that could easily go nuclear with very little warning. Israel is repeating in Lebanon what it has managed to do in the Gaza Strip. Both in Gaza and in Lebanon, a ceasefire exists on paper. But on the ground, Israel has continued with its relentless bombardment, claiming to target Hezbollah in Lebanon and Hamas in the Gaza Strip. But in the process, it is the common civilians who are paying the ultimate price. Despite the latest American brokered ceasefire for Lebanon, Israeli fighter jets have bombed several towns in southern Lebanon. Iran-backed Hezbollah has condemned the Lebanese government for accepting the Trump-brokered ceasefire as a shameless surrender. In the Gaza Strip, Israel has continued with its attacks on tent encampments of the displaced Palestinians, where it insists that Hamas members are to be found. Almost 1,000 Palestinians have been killed ever since the ceasefire was announced. But in the Middle East, it appears that a ceasefire is not worth the paper on which it is signed. Our next report tells you more.
Some parts of southern Lebanon are now beginning to resemble the bombed-out Gaza Strip. Wave after wave of Israeli attacks on some of the oldest inhabited towns and cities, such as Tyre and Sidon, is now changing the way Lebanon looks. More than 1.2 million Lebanese people have been driven out of their homes as the Israeli war machine has rolled further north into Lebanese territory. This week, the Israeli fighter jets hit residential areas, buildings and roads, while a major demolition was carried out in Bab al-Thania. Israeli warplanes also dropped bombs close to the Jabal Amil hospital, targeting the Bank Odi area. 2 people were killed in Habush, including a doctor. In Duer, a young man was killed and another suffered serious injuries due to an attack by an Israeli warplane. A strike on the village of the Kalavia Tower killed 1 person and wounded another, while a drone killed a man sitting in a car in Kafar Reman. The Israeli army has issued 2 rounds of forced displacement orders covering 9 towns and villages.
I brought my mother to the hospital around 5 days ago, as the smell of gunpowder and smoke from the heavy strikes on Tyre earlier affected her. She was admitted to the intensive care unit and is on artificial ventilation. We survived a strike near the hospital a few days ago. Yesterday, we were in the room when a very powerful strike hit directly behind the hospital.
The last chance ceasefire barely had a chance to come into effect. Hezbollah chief rejected the deal as a humiliating sellout. while Israel continued its attacks on southern Lebanon. A 12th century Crusader-era fortress has been taken over and an Israeli flag has been planted on top of it. Iran has made a ceasefire in Lebanon conditional for any ceasefire deal with the Americans. But angered at the way the last chance ceasefire has unraveled, the Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam has said that Lebanon is not anyone's bargaining chip.
If I may address a word to Iran, it is this. Have mercy on our South, stop treating it and its people as merely a bargaining chip to improve the terms of your negotiations. We are a nation that refuses to become a mere mailbox for others' messages, or an open battleground for their wars. Lebanon is not a bargaining chip for anyone, and the South is not anyone's reserve front.
In the Gaza Strip, the Israeli attacks have been relentless. The world's attention is no longer on the devastation in Gaza. There are chronic food shortages and Israel has continued to bomb the already bombed buildings and the tent encampments housing the displaced Palestinians.
They didn't even give us time to get our belongings, let me tell you. Our land registry documents, certificates, or IDs. We couldn't take anything. What is 5 minutes? What are you supposed to carry in 5 minutes? Here is our flour, here are our things, our food, and our drinks. We are trying to get things out. Look, chickpeas, tomatoes, dates. This is what we are taking out, sweets. Look here. This is our clothes. This is brand new. I swear to God it was never worn. We couldn't take it. This is a Palestinian dress. We are trying to salvage whatever we can. But this is still a crime. This is a crime against humanity. Enough, enough. World, truly enough. We can't take this anymore.
Indirect talks for the second phase of the deal, including Hamas's disarmament and Israeli troop withdrawal from the occupied Palestinian territory of Gaza, have barely moved. Israel says its strikes are aimed at thwarting imminent attacks. For the penned-in population of Palestinians, there is no safe space in Gaza. More than 60% of Gaza's territory has been taken over by Israel through its ever-expanding and creeping yellow line. And Netanyahu's stated plan of action is to squeeze the Palestinians into an even smaller patch of the Gaza Strip.
In a span of just 7 days, the United States is reported to have attacked at least 5 boats in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific. The latest series of attacks brings the number of people who have been killed in the boat strikes by the US military to at least 207. Ever since the Trump administration began targeting people that it calls as narco-terrorists in early September in an operation that is called Southern Spear. Donald Trump has said that the US is in an armed conflict with drug cartels from Latin America and has justified the attacks as a necessary escalation to stem the flow of drugs into the United States. But the Trump administration has offered very little evidence to support its claims of killing narco-terrorists. Our next report tells you more.
For the first time since the United States started attacking alleged drug boats in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific, the US Southern Command has released some footage in color, showing its strike on an alleged narco boat. The attack happened on the 29th of May in the Eastern Pacific. After a short lull in such attacks by the US Southern Command, the Trump administration has again started striking boats one after another on the allegation that they are involved in trafficking drugs into the United States. These attacks have drawn intense criticism, particularly following the revelation that the military killed survivors of the very first boat attack in a double-tap strike. Trump administration officials and many Republican lawmakers have said it is legal and necessary. But Democratic lawmakers and other independent legal experts insist the killings are extrajudicial murder, if not a war crime. Trump has stoutly defended the strikes, insisting that the strikes have blown up boats carrying fentanyl and that each destroyed vessel has saved 25,000 American lives. But according to experts and former US counter-narcotics officials, Trump's statements are either exaggerations or false. For the past decade, US officials have sounded the alarm about rising overdose deaths, particularly from opioids and synthetic opioids. Overdose deaths from opioids surged during the 2021 to 2023 period to about 80,000 a year, but dropped to an estimated 55,000 in 2024. Experts have attributed that decline partly to efforts during the last year of the Biden administration to boost the availability of life-saving drugs that prevent overdose deaths. Federal data show that figure dropped further, reaching an estimated 44,000 last year. Meanwhile, overdose deaths from cocaine, which is mostly produced in Colombia and Peru, are less frequent than those from fentanyl. About 22,000 people died in the US from cocaine overdose in 2024, down from more than 29,000 in 2023 according to federal data. The number of cocaine overdose deaths went down to an estimated 19,000 in 2025. So there are two aspects to Trump's Operation Southern Spear. Are the strikes legal, or is it extrajudicial murder on the high seas? And are these strikes even addressing America's opioid crisis?
Somalia stands on the edge of yet another precipice. President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed's decision to remain in office after his term expired last month has turned Mogadishu into a battlefield. Now, fierce clashes have broken out between the government troops and militia allied with the opposition in Somalia's capital Mogadishu. Property has been damaged. Civilians have been forced to flee from their homes. In the run-up to the fighting that started on Wednesday afternoon, the opposition leaders embedded with militia set up positions in their clan strongholds in the city. Makkah al-Mukarramah Road, the city's main thoroughfare, turned into a battlefield. By sunset, mortar rounds were landing in the densely populated civilian neighborhoods and the Bakhara market, which is Somalia's largest business center. Our next report tells you more.
Plumes of dark smoke are rising over Mogadishu. President Hassan Sheikh Mohammed has plunged Somalia into a fresh political crisis as he announced a one-year extension of his term that expired on the 15th of May. The opposition and regional leaders have rejected this, and demonstrations have turned violent. The chaos and confusion has brought back memories of 2021, when an election date lapsed without a vote occurring. Somalia has endured conflict and clan battles with no strong central government in control of the country ever since the autocratic ruler Mohammed Barre fell in 1991. Somalia has also been grappling with a nearly two-decade-long insurgency led by the Al-Qaeda-linked Al-Shabaab group. And this time too, the street violence is threatening to spill out of control.
I'm one of the Halwadag residents, specifically from Sayidka neighborhood. Unexpected fighting erupted here. Our children were shocked and we were sleepless all night. We were in hiding and we took our children out of here early this morning. We were sleepless all night because of the crackling machine gun fire and explosions.
Former President Sharif Sheikh Ahmed, who was in power from 2009 to 2012, said the government forces had targeted his home, and has accused Mohammed's government of illegally altering the constitution. While the former Prime Minister Hassan Ali Khair has accused the government troops of using heavy weapons, including anti-tank weapons and drones, in densely populated areas. Somalia has not held a direct election for national leadership since the late 1960s, and ever since the Somali state was re-established in 2012 after its 1991 collapse, leaders have been elected through an indirect system negotiated by clan elders and political elites. This political crisis is one among the many crises that Somalia is confronted with. Somaliland, which declared independence in 1991, has stayed out of the constitutional review entirely. Puntland and Jubaland, two of Somalia's 6 federal states, have withdrawn from the federal system, while Al-Shabaab continues to remain an active threat for the Somali state. The question now is, will Somalia's leadership resolve this political crisis through consensus, or is Mogadishu about to plunge into a much bigger conflict?
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of World at War. If you want to reach out to me with any comments, feedback or suggestions, please feel free to do so on the ID that you're seeing on your screens. I'm your host, Mohammed Saleh, and I'll see you again next week.